هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني.
So remember, I was 16 years old when I went to prison. Some may think that it was unfair that the judge sentenced me to such long period of time at such a young age. But of course, Allah Azza wa Jalla has decreed everything to happen for particular reasons, and I embrace Islam in prison, so I have no quarrels with the fact that I was sent to prison, especially that I was sent to prison at such a young age and given such a long period of time. MashaAllah, I embrace Islam in prison, so it's something good that happened to me and in my life, and I don't have any regrets at all as far as going into prison. Like I was saying before, some of the differences that I've seen as far as comparing the Muslims to the non-Muslims in prison, they were paramount. I mean, it was very obvious, and having seen that on the outside, after embracing Islam, I understood some of the things that I seen on the outside, because now I was on the inside and I seen how the Muslims actually operated as a unit and as one body, not as a separated unit or as a scattered group. Because for instance, during the month of Ramadan, there were times that the officials and the wardens would give us the opportunity to make the salats in the Jama'ah 5 times a day. MashaAllah, that's something that we was granted. And also after the Isha Salat, they would grant us an hour and a half to perform the Tarawih together. And this was definitely a blessing for me and for the Muslims, because it showed a sense of unity. And I mean, we had an option to go back to the dormitories. It was late. We had been up since early that morning to observe the Suhoor before the Fajr Salat. And I mean, we would be tired. It would be long, exhausting days. And granted, you have to understand that fasting in prisons is nothing like fasting on the street. I mean, since I've been out, mashallah, I've observed 1 month of Ramadan, and the breakfasts that I ate was like really big: grits, eggs, biscuits, a tall glass of milk. But in prison, it's not like that. You get what they serve you, and that's just gonna have to suffice you throughout the day. And it's good in a sense, because we know that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did mention the three, and the three. So we shouldn't really try to fool ourselves up with breakfast and lunch, because we're gonna miss lunch. So actually, it was a benefit for us, I think, on the inside. But nevertheless, I seen from the inside, as I became a part of the Ummah, why I would see the things from the outside, as far as the unity structure, as far as the level of disciplines that they will have, as far as them corresponding with one another and not letting anyone break their ranks. And I remember one time, for an example, before I embraced Islam, I was coming down the sidewalk. Me and a couple of more guys were coming down the sidewalk, coming from the rec yard. And a group of Muslims was also coming down the sidewalk, the same sidewalk in the opposite direction. And they didn't budge. They wasn't going to let us break their stride, or they wasn't going to let us come in between us. And in a sense, I viewed it as disrespect in a way, but I didn't understand. But I understood once I embraced Islam, and I became familiar with the hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that we shouldn't allow ourselves to be split, and we should force the kuffar to the side of the road. And that showed me, once I became familiar with why they would do certain things, that these brothers were really sincere, and these brothers were really trying to do what they could within their means, granted the situation, to practice the deen, to abide by the rules that Allah has given us, to stay within the limits that Allah has set for us. And this really also boosted my morale and made me understand that this is really what I wanted to be upon, and this is really what I felt as though, and I know to be true, the religion of truth. So the brothers on the inside, they're very sincere, to say the least. They do what they can within the limits that the Department of Corrections in Florida has set, while at the same time struggling to establish the Sharia as much as they can on the inside, to establish different tenets of the religion that's not really established or not really allowed on the inside. For an example, which is a pretty big example, in Florida, the Department of Corrections, they don't allow you to grow facial hair, and we know that there's an obligation upon the male Muslims to let the beard remain and to trim the mustache. And to be forced to shave your beard after becoming Muslim and after accepting the fact that this is an obligation, it makes you feel naked. It makes you feel different. It makes you feel like a kuffar. and brothers are actually fighting, and brothers are actually going through the legal procedures to get it established in Florida Department of Correction system to legalize the fact that we are Muslims and to recognize the fact that it is an obligation upon us, it is the tenet of our religion that the beard remain. And it's moving forward. It's taking time, but inshallah, the Muslims will be successful on the inside. I mean, it's those type of things that made me understand that the brothers were sincere and they continue to be sincere. And what I think is an obligation of mine now that I'm on the outside is to bring that message or to bring those examples on the outside to make the brothers on the outside aware of the struggle that's on the inside, and that they have brothers on the inside who's struggling and brothers on the inside who's struggling to establish the deen for themselves. Because inshallah, you have brothers on the inside who will never be released. So they want to make their lives as comfortable as possible as far as practicing the deen. But it's also who's on the outside. It's also a responsibility to us because they have rights upon us. They're Muslims. And as Muslims, we have rights upon them. And if they reach out their hand to open up a line of communication, to open up a line of dawah, to open up a line to establish a means of understanding the deen better, or establish a means of acquiring answers to various questions that they have, it's our obligation to give them that. It's our obligation within our means to provide them that, whether it be answers off the internet. I mean, the internet is something that's very new to me. It didn't really exist when I went into prison, but I'm getting kind of used to it now. I'm going on to the authentic websites and pulling up questions that I have for myself now. And I think that what we can do, and it doesn't take much time. It doesn't take but a few minutes out of the day or a few minutes out of the week to find out what those questions are. Ask them what are the questions that they have, and take time out to go to the A'imma, to go to the Ulama, and get those questions answered. I know that on the website, Authentic Statements, I see the book that's been dedicated to the guys on the inside answering questions, and I think it's going to be very beneficial and is a very positive step towards opening up a line of communication with the guys on the inside, because it boosts our morale when brothers do come in on the inside. Not only send literatures in or correspond with us, but when brothers come in on the inside, that does something to us. That lets us know that the brothers on the outside recognize that we are in here, and that they recognize that they are brothers and that they love us for the sake of Allah.